Hello, my name is Paul Lee. I'm a Palisades Park resident. I live on Hillside Avenue. I'm here today to explain to you Palisades Park municipal budgeting process. This is based on 2020 adopted budget and is a comparison study with other neighboring towns. A New Jersey property tax is created by checking the assessed value, multiplying that with the municipal tax rate, which determines your tax bill. Municipal tax rate is determined by government, a combination of municipal, county, and school budget that determines your municipal tax rate. First, let me do a comparative history of Palisades Park municipal, county, and school taxes. From 2016, Bergen County tax was about $6.3 million. By 2019, it increased to about $7.3 million, and total increase was about $1 million. At the same time, our Palisades Park school tax started with about $22 million and ended with $23.6 million. Total increase about $1.6 million. But our municipal tax, which started in 2016 with $20.5 million, has increased to $22.9 million. This is an increase of $2.4 million. Palisades Park municipal tax is almost as big as the local school tax. This is very unusual. Our neighboring town, if you look at Leonia, their school budget is 55%, while their municipal budget is only 36%. Rutherford is the same, 52% versus 39%. Our municipal tax has been going up 2.35 times faster than the Bergen County tax, and it's been going up 1.53 times faster than the school budget. It is the fastest increasing of the three budgets that make up property tax rate in our town. I want to refer you to a letter our Mayor Chung has sent out to the residents of Palisades Park on April 22nd. Mayor Chung said that we have already implemented drastic cuts amounting to millions of taxpayers' dollars in saving to offset the effects of this crisis. Yet, when I checked the 2020 adopted budget, I could not find these millions of dollars of drastic tax cuts. Actually, the number of appropriation went up. This is impossible if you had a drastic tax cut of millions of dollars. In 2019, our total appropriation was $24,155,490. In 2020, it increased to $24,692,915. Numbers don't lie. This is a tax increase. There are three numeric factors that govern the municipal budget. It's an appropriation amount and revenue amount. And there are two types of revenue. There's a miscellaneous revenue, the type that the town can collect on its own, and then there's property tax revenue. Like any other budget, it's the appropriation that drives the budget side. Then you deduct the miscellaneous revenue, and the remaining comes from the property tax. There's a repeating pattern in Palisades Park municipal budgeting that you see it again and again, that is maximizing appropriation line item beyond years of proven actual paid amount, and this maximizes the surplus. Also, there's another pattern of minimizing the miscellaneous line items against years of proven actual collection in order to maximize the amount needed to be raised through the property tax. You will see this pattern repeating again and again. This results in a steady slope of tax increase. In 2016, it was 1.901%, 2017, 1.959%, 2018, it increases to 1.979%, and in 2019, it increased to 2.032%. And in 2020, it'll probably increase at a very similar rate. Let's check the underestimated miscellaneous revenue. We're talking things like the alcoholic beverage liquor license fee, other fees and permits, municipal court fines, parking meter, interest on deposits and investment, and uniform construction code. They're all colored here. What this graph will tell you is that between 2016 and 19 average, all our anticipated revenue in 2020 budget is smaller than the actual. This leaves the under revenue forecast of about $794,000. And this is not counting all the line items, just the major ones. All right, then let's look at the budget appropriation. This is what drives the budget. And this is what the town is saying that they need. First is the general government, administrative and executive salaries. As you can see in this graph, amazingly, Palisades Park salary for administrative and executive is actually higher than Fort Lee. Fort Lee is the second most populous place in Bergen County. Palisades Park is 11th. Yet, our town employees, the administrative and executive total salary is much larger than Fort Lee. Once we compare to towns like Rutherford, who has a similar amount of people as we do, it's almost twice as much. And it's about 4 times as much as Richfield and 1/3 as much as Leonia. We have a very, very expensive borough hall. Also, let's look at other administrative miscellaneous expenses, and you begin to see this pattern that I'm talking about. In 2019, we paid about $155,000 of miscellaneous expenses, and we had a surplus about $20,000. This year, we're asking for $210,000. We're supposed to have a spending freeze, right? This leaves a potential surplus of another $55,000. If we look at the website maintenance, last year we paid $8,000. This year, we're asking for $50,000. Is this a budget spending freeze to you? Also, our financial administrative salary, the pattern continues. In 2019, we paid about $60,000, and we had about a surplus of $21,000. This year, we're asking for $75,000. This is going to create even larger surplus because we only paid $60,000 last year. Legal tax appeal. As you can see in the graph, the black bar, which implies the surplus levels, you can see that from 2016, 17, 18, 19, it keeps going up. In 2019, it was $34,250, yet we asked for $75,000 this year. This leaves a potential of another $60,000 surplus. Let's look at the police department. I don't want to talk about the salaries of the police department because the police is very important. All right, they protect us. But it's the surplus in this line item that's the problem. We already know the salaries of our policemen, yet we have about $600,000 surplus coming out of this line item. Take a look at the salary. You see how Fort Lee spends so much more than we do, and Rutherford spends a little bit more than us, and Richfield, they spend quite a bit too. But when it gets to the surplus, nobody is higher than us, including Fort Lee, who spends about 4 times as much as we do. Fire department, same story. You can see from the Fort Lee, they spend a lot more than we do. Palisades Park is red. But when it comes to the surplus, all you can see is the red graph. Let's go to the garbage disposal. Fort Lee is a city. Obviously, they spend a lot more than we do. But compared to other towns, we spend maybe 2 or 3 times as much. And our surplus is high too. Now, supposedly we get more services, but is it worth $800,000 a year compared to our neighboring towns? Also, the people under Uniform Construction Code salary. As you can see, compared to our other town, our surplus is tremendous. There's also a Social Security OASI payment line item. Now, this is something that we can probably predict pretty accurately, but yet last year we created a $119,000 surplus, and yet we're asking for $600,000, which is much more than what we paid last year, which was $480,000, potentially creating another $120,000 surplus line item. Then we have people that are totally underpaid that just create surplus. This senior committee person in 2018 only got paid $171, creating a $29,829 surplus. In 2019, he got paid $19.51, and he created $31,048 surplus. This year, the town is asking to increase his salary to $35,000 when they only paid $1,951 last year. Now, you begin to see the surplus pattern. All right, so what is this surplus? How does it get used? I'm sure you're very curious. Well, surplus is the money that's left over from line item that you get to use. Now, this can be transferred during the course of the year for other line items, as long as the city councilman vote on the matter. Now, usually they get spent on later parts of the budget year because the money becomes tighter as we go along the budget year. They're often put into the consent agenda, so the residents can't really even see what they're being used for, usually. Now, many towns use this surplus budgeting method when they prepare their budget. The Palisades Park's problem when it comes to this surplus budget is its size, and also the method used in collecting it, transparency, and the possible commingling of funds. Now, during the good times, this surplus budgeting is not so much of a problem. But at crises like this, where most of the people, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, has lost their income and jobs, this becomes a tremendous problem because surplus budgeting demands money up front. It's like giving people a blank check. Let me also show you how they actually use the mechanism to use the surplus fund. First, you appropriate in the beginning of the budget in the spring an X amount of dollars. Then you modify it through the councilman's votes into a different amount that you want to use, and then you actually pay it. So the original budget item is often not what you're actually paying. It could be an increase or decrease. It could be manipulated to just create surpluses as well. Now, this is probably the most important slide in this presentation. This is comparing the surplus level of Palisades Park compared to our neighboring towns. First is Fort Lee. Fort Lee spends much more money than we do because it's a city. Their budget is $81 or $84 million in 2020. Ours is only $24 million. It's 1/4 of the size. But when you get to the surplus, our surplus is almost the same as Fort Lee. Fort Lee's 2019 surplus was $2,497,269. Palisades Park's 2019 surplus was $2,262,464. There's only like $260,000 difference. And they're spending 4 times as much money. Their budget is 4 times as bigger. When we compare to other towns like Richfield, who has a similar budget size as we do, our surplus is 3 times their level. And Leonia is like twice as their level, plus. Now, if the Richfield and Leonia can manage their affair with this lower surplus, why do we need 2 or 3 times as much? You see this repeating pattern of surplus creation by maximizing appropriation against a proven paid cost and minimizing municipal miscellaneous revenue against proven collections. But this is not it. Let's see where other towns are actually spending their money. You get it. They spend it on their residents. Our recreation programs, which, as you know, we don't have that many, you can see their director's salary. We have $60,000 appropriated for this line item. Rutherford, which has a similar population as we do, spent 10 times as much, $633,000. Richfield spends $250,000, and Leonia spends $212,000. When it comes to the salary, we have the highest level. When it comes to what we do for the residents, as you can see, is minuscule compared to our surrounding towns. This is the tragedy of Palisades Park. We also have line items that other towns don't have. We have such thing called COA Building Inspector. This is for the affordable housing. But COA went defunct in 2017 and is now being handled by the Supreme Court. Yet, we have a COA Building Inspector that got paid in 2019 $111,000. But in our town, we also have a town building inspector who gets paid $132,919. Our town is only 1.25 square miles, and we do not have that many affordable housing to speak of. Yet, we have 2 building inspectors that get paid over 6 figures. Do we really need this? In our budget, we also have people who don't get paid and just create surplus. They're kind of like ghosts. I mean, the amount isn't huge, but this is a town budget. Shouldn't we get more accurate than this? We have 4 people since 2017 that's been paid 0, just creating surpluses. We also have line items where we don't pay a dime, but we appropriate it to the tax rate. Roosevelt Avenue garbage. In 2019 and 2016, we paid nothing, but made $20,000 surplus every year. Fort Lee sewage fee. We appropriate $14,000, but we don't pay them a dime. It just goes into the surplus. In 2019, we increased this to $17,500, and we did it again. Now, problem with these appropriations is that they determine the tax rate, and the taxpayer paid this in advance. Also, there's a line item for tree cutting. Now, in 2016, we spent about $7,000. 2017, we spent about $8,000. 2018, we spent $436,000. Last year, we spent $6,600 about. But this year, we're appropriating $12,000. Is this a spending freeze to you? We need to cut the budget, not the trees. The numbers don't lie. When you see the appropriation bottom line compared to 2019 and 2018, you will see about $500 and some thousand of increase. The surplus level from 2018 to 2019 also goes up from about $1.9 million to $2.26 million. This is a budget that's on its way up, not down. Going back to the mayor's letter to the residents on April 22nd, as highlighted, I could not find millions of taxpayer dollars that was drastically cut in this budget. So this budget is in the website, town website. Please download it. Please look through it. And if you find it, please let me know, because I couldn't find it. Don't get hoodwinked by some of the words that's coming out of the borough. They're saying that this year, because of the lower assessment value in some of the homes, that actually the tax bill is going to go down. Well, the assessment value has nothing to do with the town's budget. It's determined by actual market value in the real estate market. If the assessment came lower, and if they cut anything and actually lower the tax rate, your tax bill would be even lower than what you're going to see. So when they say you got a lower tax, they didn't tell you that it could have been much lower. Now, the school board this year, under the instructions of School Board President Stephanie Jang and 8 trustees, came together in the end of April to reduce their original budget by 4.5% to relieve the residents during this COVID-19 crisis. I do not understand why the borough municipal budget can't do the same. Now, because it is our leaders who determines the budget and the tax rate, we have to make sure that we make the right choices in this year's election. Thank you very much for listening.